The story about Grenfell Tower and government plans to take it down, it took me by surprise because I didn't know it was coming in terms of the date, but it didn't really take me by surprise in terms of expecting it to happen, because I was told some time ago that the experts appointed by the government would probably come back with whatever the government wanted to hear. I just leave that hanging because, of course, if they can prove that it has actually been a grave threat to the local community for the last 4.5 years, then the argument shifts and the conversation we're going to have becomes in many ways redundant. Ed Daffarn, who I mentioned to you a moment ago and whose name, if you listen to this programme on a regular basis, will already be familiar to you, was the founder member of the Grenfell Action Group, along with his friend Francis O'Connor. They wrote the blog that warned and pleaded for a change of course in that community, in that corner of North Kensington. It went unheeded, and their predictions, of course, were then realised in the worst imaginable way. He's now heavily involved with Grenfell United and joins me on the line now. Edward, thank you again for your time. Did you know this was coming, this announcement, this story?
Morning, James. I think there's always been a suspicion that a priority of the government's would be to remove the tower. I think it's a reminder to the community, to the wider public, of the atrocity that happened on the 14th of June 2017. Myself, if I had my own way, yes, and as Rachel mentioned in your introduction, I would remove the shroud. I would have the building left, the carcass, the frightening, scary carcass that it is, as a testament to the crimes perpetrated against the community, until some justice and until some change comes about. I'm aware that is a very radical view, and it's not one held by everyone. And you can speak to a fellow survivor who will say, I can't walk past the tower, it needs to come down.
Yes.
And so for me, the discussion at the moment is less about whether the tower stays up or comes down. I think we would almost acknowledge there is probably in the community a consensus that at some time the tower will need to come down.
Yes.
The problem for us at the moment is that we hear about the decisions about the tower through national newspapers, through social media. The people who should be at the heart of this discussion, the bereaved, the survivors, the local community, have been excluded. And that is what's causing so much anger and sadness. And that's the heart of what the issue is.
You were promised that there would be full consultation. The bereaved and survivors would be fully consulted by government. I saw a spokesman for Grenfell United saying yesterday that the fewer than 10 of the bereaved and survivors have been spoken to date. Does that tally with your understanding of the situation?
That tallies completely with my understanding. And, I would point out that prior to the fire, we had things done to us rather than with us. And exactly the same things happening 4 years after the fire. They are doing things to us rather than with us. Yes. It's not, as you highlighted, it's a very, very sensitive subject. It's a graveyard for 72 souls, and the bereaved need to be at the heart of any discussion about what happens to the site.
Why aren't they? I don't know. You're just speculating now, but I'd love to know your thoughts.
Do you know? I mean, I'd start off by saying incompetence and indifference on the part of government. If it's anything more sinister, I don't know. I mean, the government have proved themselves to be incompetent and indifferent to our plight. The fact that we're sitting here today talking about the future of the tower, when it really should be a conversation going on between a small group of bereaved survivors, the local community representatives, and the government, not being aired on national radio,
yes,
is testament to how poorly this subject has been handled.
The fire's destructive rage burnt all that was unsafe, but Grenfell Stands, it did not fall. Today, Grenfell is a burnt shell covered in tar. It stands because it has to remind of the justice that has yet to be done, because it cannot fall until change is delivered, and it should stand until those responsible sit in prison. Our dearest loved ones rest in that tower. Respect for them demands full consultation, but the government think they can bring it down behind a veil. Concern for safety while thousands of people are still sleeping in death traps. Ironically, Grenfell is the most safe, unsafe building in London. It could stand for as long as there is life here with political will. It seems that the government want Grenfell out of the skyline, to erase it from our memories. Before they cladded the tower, they wanted to demolish it. Grenfell is now earmarked for destruction, without true consultation with the victims, their loved ones, and the community as a whole. And most of us can now see why. The skyline is changing, so is the housing, so is the geography, fracturing our community and making us question whether generations of families belong. Our village feeling is fading away, replaced with soulless greed. And this new shiny London can't sell with buyers staring Grenfell in the face, a constant reminder of corporate greed. Grenfell is a reflection of modern Britain, and if the government take it down, it is because they can no longer look at us nor themselves in the eye. But we are going nowhere. We continue to stand until there is justice, accountability, and change. Grenfell stands.